Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Welcome, everybody. This is episode 8 of Now and Zen. I'm having a blast meeting wonderful people. Happy to bring them to your attention. And this week, we've got someone very special to me, a very dear friend. And I think many of you may have heard him already. He's been in a lot of geoengineering news as a former KLM captain for 15 years, and he's come to help give more credibility to the geoengineering exposure movement. But he's much more than that. He's very deep. He's extremely spiritual, a very loving man. I'm honored to know. And I want to introduce you to him. He's coming to us from the boonies of Europe, so the connection might be a little bit jumpy, but so far the audio has been really good. But this is Willem Felderhof. And Willem, it's great to have you, brother. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, hi, dear Zen. The pleasure is mine. It's a big honor to be on your show. And so I'm really happy to be here. And every moment with you is, of course, a blessing. So, yeah, that's nice. Looking forward.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, before starting, I want to thank you for all your amazing efforts and work you do and on a daily basis. And that's important to say on forehand as well, because that cannot be stated enough. So thank you, I think, on behalf of a lot of people for all your work, all your light work, and especially the light you bring. Not only the words you bring, but the light you bring. That's amazing. So many thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. I as you know, I say the same thing about you. It's a real honor, to be alive at this time. A lot of people see the negative side of it, but we're in an amazing upturn of energy and vibration and opportunity for growth, personal growth, healing of our planet and our fellow man. So it's really a wonderful time to be alive. But I guess one of the prices of it is we all have to put our shoulder to the wheel and keep paddling. Like the surf is up. And it's a test for everybody, and we're always learning new things. And as we always say, the awakening is not a one-time thing; it's a continual process. But first, let's talk a little bit about your background for people who maybe aren't familiar with you. You're from Holland, and you've been in the Army, and then you've been a KLM pilot for 15 years, actually a captain and a trainer. And then your evolution into consciousness and what brought you into the awakening and the amazing journey you're on now. And then we'll talk about what you've been learning recently and sort of put it all in context. How does that sound? You want to give a little brief background of some sort?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I'm from Holland originally. I was born in Holland and spent the first, at least 25 years in Holland, and grown up in the north, and then moved through the big cities in the west to in The Hague. Most of my youth I spent in The Hague. Difficult youth, as we all had, of course, and in that sense, things falling into place because you more and more understand now why you had such a difficult time when you were young. At least I had that. So. I went to difficult school career, seen a lot of schools, and a dream of mine always actually was to become a pilot. It was deeply in me as a little boy already, always looking at the skies and fascinated by aviation, and so that was always in me. But it failed miserably in the first 20 years, of course, because I was distracted and things didn't go well, and a lot of problems and, at school and after school. And I went in the army, as you said. I went to the special forces when I was 18. That was also a sort of dream in a way when I was a little boy. I don't know if that was because of the movie Rambo or whatever, but I liked it. And so that was actually the first moment in my life when I was 18 when I did something which I liked myself. So in that sense, it helped me a lot personally. It was a very valuable period, this army time. It wasn't very long. Everybody had to go in the army back then. And I chose to do the special forces, which I succeeded in also. It was quite a challenge, but I managed to stay in it, and it became a valuable period in my life. I saw a lot of positive things as well in the army. Although we were quite brainwashed, it was in the period of the Cold War, so we were completely brainwashed into and drilled into the Russian threat and in that approach. But besides that, I saw a lot of positive things working together with a very tight group, and I saw also the power you have as an individual and as a group there, which was quite interesting. Not in an aggressive way or like this army kind, but also just as a group, a small group, because we started with a big group and we ended after this very intense training with a small group, and this group is still actually very tightly connected. So that was good for me to experience. Well, then after the army, I went to the School of Aviation after doing several commercial attempts to be a commercial success, but that's apparently not in me to sell. For instance, I was a salesman for copiers for Canon, but
you have the record, don't you?
Yeah, I have a record. Yeah, I didn't sell one actually, so that was quite it was not good for my self-esteem, but I knew for sure that the commercial area was not my kind of area, but I didn't believe in the product as well. I mean, that's a big thing. If you believe in what you believe in, if you're connected to it, then you can sell everything, I think, with a good intention.
Yes,
but
that's right.
So and then after that, finally I could, because I had still a lot of problems in myself going on in my area where I lived, in my family and friends and personal processes, difficulties with all kinds of old stuff, which was still in me. So that was a different part besides what I did. I had this personal process, what everybody goes through, looking for solutions to feel better, feel healthy, mentally and physically, and difficult process. And because of that, I stayed in contact with, I got in contact more in the alternative circuit for healing work and for myself actually, find solutions for healing actually for what I was suffering from, very different kinds of things. And when I was 25, I got the opportunity to go to the School of Aviation. I was at that moment at the point that I was planning to go back in the Army as a professional Marine, or I could go to the School of Aviation. And that was an amazing chance, of course, for me to get another chance to go to become a pilot. So I immediately went there, and I became a pilot, a commercial airline pilot. So I was finally, I was at a place where I really loved to be actually. So and from there, another part started of my life, of course. I first started to fly on small aircraft at a small airline from Rotterdam to London, daily basis. And after that I went to Transavia, which is a low-cost carrier in Holland. And then after that I joined KLM. And I flew for 20 years in KLM, total as a co-pilot, and at the end I switched back to flights in Europe because I did only intercontinental flight, long flights, and I became a pilot. But shortly thereafter, I had to quit because of my health, which was deteriorating, and yeah, that became a big part of my life, of course, for the later part actually, and the search for my health, the reasons why I became sick. My health was deteriorating, so I started doing all kinds of treatments, healing, nutrition, started studying nutrition and doing more healing work, and it continued with deteriorating. So I discovered that there was something in the airline at my work which was causing this health deterioration, and it was the toxicity in the air. So then from there I became a whistleblower for a few years. It's all in the public domain, it's documented. And in that period, which was again a very valuable period because I learned a lot about myself, and I came in contact with amazing people as well, and who were also whistleblowers, but also in this area. And then then I came into the area of geoengineering, of course, which I first couldn't believe, but like we all, but I did more in-depth research because it's aviation, of course, and that's where a big part of my heart is still with aviation. I still like to watch the planes. I don't go in the plane anymore, but I still love it, of course. So I was following this area, the geoengineering, which is quite fascinating.
It is. It really is. It's funny with what happened to you. I mean, you obviously had a very strong reaction to the toxic air inside of airplanes, but most people aren't aware of how the air is collected in the engine and cycled into the cabin and what toxins it has in it, as you talk about the neurotoxins. And people, as you pointed out, we were just talking the other day, people think it's jet lag that has to do with the time zones, but really they're detoxing from what they were contaminated by on the airplanes. People think in terms of, oh, the air is recycled, therefore there's germs in the air, but they don't understand the origin of the air. and that to me, hearing your whole story was a real wake up, and it makes me much more cautious about flying very much. And I try to alert other people as well. They don't realize now you've got chemtrails in the mix as well. So it's, then you got the electromagnetic frequencies from the engines and all the muck in the air. So it's a real battle for health. And you've been on a real uphill climb for a long time. And as you've mentioned to me, there's many crew members, pilots and people in the cab working in the cabin who get very sick. And then what do they call it? Burnout. They just say they're tired of their job, but really they're very sick people. And it's a big area that the airlines don't want to talk about, right?
No, they don't. And the problem as well is because in a regular health area, if you go to a hospital, to a doctor, they, for the most part, they don't include toxic exposure to toxic elements in the diagnosis. That's the same with radiation. Electromagnetic radiation in society, it's a huge attack on our health, really. But if you go to a doctor in a hospital, he doesn't include it in his diagnosis. Besides foods, what you eat. So the whole multidimensional toxic attack, assault on humanity is the most ingredients are not included in the diagnosis by regular. It's mainstream health care. So then they come up with the diagnosis, because a lot of diagnosis, burnout, if you see the symptoms of burnout, there's a huge overlap with exposure to neurotoxins, but also to exposure to heavy metals. In general, toxicity or toxic, if you have toxic exposure, a lot of symptoms have overlap with burnout. I mean, burnout is like a real diagnosis. It's very easy for a doctor. If he doesn't know exactly what the problem is, in most cases, they give you diagnosed burnout. And when you're under the age of 25, they give you the diagnosed ADHD or ADD for the same reasons. Because the children, if you see, they react in a more sensitive way over reaction to the toxic assaults, because they're more in felt sense reality, and they have very sensitive and vulnerable nerve system. Body is still in growth period, so they're more sensitive to it. So they get, especially radiation, they get diagnosed ADHD, ADD, and then they get to help them, they get on medication.
Yeah, pharmaceuticals.
More toxics.
Exactly. It's so true. What you're saying is so fundamental. Like that saying, it's not the answer. It's all in the question. It's, you can apply that that wrong thinking and diagnosis. The big blank spot in their minds that they're not touching. You can go to 9/11. They didn't test for radioactivity. They didn't test for thermate. They didn't test for anything. They dug it up and threw it in the bay. But or vaccines, they'll actually blame the mother for beating the child or abuse of the child because the baby died from vaccines. They don't want to research. They don't want to ask those questions. They don't test for mercury, aluminum, thimerosal, any of the adjuvants, or they don't research their effects. They don't ask the question. Same thing with radiation now in the world. When people have radiation toxicity, the symptoms can be anything from a cough to, recurring fever, asthma, heart attacks, kidney failure. And so, as you said, the whole medical system is based on a lie, a very incomplete, unreal science, non-scientific science, and that people rely on it, and they always come back with the same prescriptions for more toxins. It's dystopic. It's so surreal that we could live in a world that's that infected and that blind. It's just remarkable. But that people, so many people don't realize about flying. And you think about these commuters, these businessmen are just flying all the time. What is it doing to them? It's just it's a shocker. Never mind, like we didn't include in the first list, the radiation up there. It's a higher levels of radiation at the higher altitudes, and the mixture is just lethal.
Yeah, and you see a lot of passengers who fly like business people, businessmen or businesswomen, business people, and they fly more than pilots. And if you see their health, sometimes, because it's also depends also on your ability to detoxify. And I have certain mutations in my enzyme constitution. We all have like 5,000 enzymes which are used to metabolize the toxins. So if you breathe in or you eat or whatever you get in toxins, the enzymes are used to metabolize it. So it goes through different phases. So first, the body is making it in another substance. So it's changing the molecules of the toxins in order to get rid of it with fluids, with urine or transpiration. But these different phases of the detoxifying process, the metabolization, it uses different enzymes. And certain people like me, or it's the same with people from Asia, they don't have these enzymes to detoxify from alcohol. That's why they react so strongly to alcohol, because they don't have these enzymes that are used to detoxify from it. So what happens is then, if you take the alcohol or you take the organophosphates, in my case, or you take the aluminium, your body doesn't have the access. Well, aluminium is a bad example, but if your body don't have these enzymes, it's stocking up in the body. It cannot leave the body. So, and then you will get symptoms, and then you become sick. You get, but that's a small part of the society, like 3 to 5%. You can call them bad detoxifiers. So these are the people who are very sensitive, oversensitive to toxins, because they react. You get this, and when they were young, they thought, I have a psychosomatic disorder. No, you're very sensitive. You're very sensitive. They get this label. You have a psychosomatical disorder.
Right.
And then they get even more stressed because then they think, I have this problem, so I'm not okay. And then you get medicines, whatever. No, you're oversensitive because this is toxic society. So, but then you have this group of medium detoxifiers. It's like 30% of the people.
Yeah.
They get real problems after 15 years of flying or whatever area they're working. Because then it starts off, but slower than the bad detoxifiers.
Right.
So yeah, but in the doctors, they are trained by the pharmaceutical schools, so they want. I went when I was in a bad state, health. I was in and out intensive care units, and my cardiologist, she said, you have to take this antihistaminas for the blood to be thinner.
Oh yeah, blood thinners. Oh, those are nasty. Yeah.
And she was this brilliant woman, Iranian cardiologist, the best in Holland. So very how she knows about the heart and all these things. So, but she doesn't ask what are you doing for work? What are you being exposed to? What do you eat? What are your sleeping habits? Where do you live? She said, you take this medicine, it's okay, you can alter this. So I said, well, first I'm going to do detox program for the coming 6 months. And then she was like, well,
what's
you
that?
do whatever you want, but that's completely against her, it's outside of her box, of course.
Yes, yes.
It's luckily, because the good thing is that we find now solutions for these problems, because there are solutions and ways to protect and ways to detoxify and ways to change your life or change some behavior which can then avoid this ongoing pattern to a moment where you actually end up really sick or dead. But so that's the good thing, of course. We have to become creative in this time. And then we can find solutions.
Yeah, and it's a paradigm shift for people to, like you said, they address the symptoms without even asking about what the cause could possibly be. I mean, that's remarkably, blind. It's just blind. Yet that's the way of thinking of 95% of the world. And they'll go to these people in white coats, black coats, uniforms, and just give away their personal authority to this person who supposedly knows what they're doing, and go ahead and take the medicine, which, if it does anything, it only masks the symptoms. It doesn't approach to touch the cause. I mean, I'm sure you heard, I think we talked about this, that the respiratory diseases, I think in the United States, were the number eight killer of people in the U.S., and now it's number 3. The spraying program is so intense. Never mind the stuff on the ground, the glyphosate and all the normal pollution, so-called. But if anybody would begin to connect the dots, and asthma is killing people. People are dying from asthma. It's a very serious time. And it's not to dwell on the negative. It's not to make everybody paranoid and afraid, but it's to help us pursue a new paradigm in our understanding and find the causes for these. And in many cases, it's get away from the influences. Like, you won't fly. I won't live in the U.S. You get away from these. And one of the things you respond to as well, because you're a very sensitive person, is the electromagnetic frequencies, right? And the same thing with Elle. She can actually hear them in her head, the different frequencies. I'm able to hear a couple frequencies, and they turn up, they turn down. When the spraying is really intense, you'll notice you can feel it more because it's bouncing off all the metals in the air. But this is a big problem too, and people are becoming very sick from this as the towers increase. The lines get stronger, their frequency range gets bigger. But you've been studying that a lot too. Do you want to say something about EMFs and your sensitivity to it? Does it go along with your immune issues and the other things, or is it a completely different thing?
Well, I think it's I'm I'm oversensitive I'm electro-hypersensitive. That's the official diagnosis the World Health Organization has stated for it. So there is actually a diagnosis for it. So, but it's just good to know where comes this radiation, where comes this technology from, where does it originate from, and if you do research on that and you look into it, then you come to the conclusion. You will see that it comes from the military. These are military technologies originated. Well, this goes of course way back, but when they were used as the way they're being used now, that's actively from the 50s, 60s. They were used by military with the single purpose back then was to use them as a weapon. And the weapon was dual functional. It was to influence the minds as mind control and with that behavior control, and to make people sick. So it was a silent weapon in fact, because you cannot see it. So that's how they used it in, for instance, the Russians, they used it against the embassy in Moscow. They beamed this. They attacked this embassy actually with EMF frequencies, the same which we are now using. Actually, we're using exactly the same technology as they used as a weapon back then. So that fact alone is, you can only come to the conclusion that it's not good for us, and it's not just a coincidence that they give us all these nice toys, these phones, to use them. Yeah, and it's a coincidence that it's very bad for you, and it causes health problems. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
Still, there we go. I'm unmuted.
Yeah, there you are. There you are.
That'll be my next music album, Unmuted. What was I going to say? What I was saying was, they put telephones, the mobile phone, on the exact frequency of the human brain. They could have picked Barry Trower. Anybody not familiar with Barry Trower's work? He used to be in the Secret Service of England, and he actually was sent to research this phenomenon when the Russians were bombarding the U.S. Embassy, causing leukemia, migraines, a lot of different sicknesses. And he discovered what was going on, and his research is remarkably clear, simple, understandable. He's a wonderful research tool, Barry Trower. But they deliberately put it on the frequency of the human brain. I mean, there's a range of frequencies. There's others that would not be as deleterious to human health. But no, like you said, and now these towers are appearing everywhere. And you'll notice that the masts, they call them cell phone masts, the flat, long ones, but next to it are going to be long wires, strange shapes, these cone things, the dishes. What are those for? And it's known in the U.S., they call it the Gwen towers, where they use extra low frequency broadcasts, which really messes with the human body and mind. And why? Why? Exactly what you're saying. What is this set up for? And some days, we talk about this frequently because we communicate a lot. Some days you can feel you're getting blasted. I mean, something fierce. And then other days it's not quite as intense and it changes. But yeah, actually, I think as we get more awake and healthier and more sensitive to this in a good way, we can identify it. And you learned a big thing recently. You found if you moved more frequently, got around, it would help. But sitting still in the same place sort of magnified the effect, right? Yeah, definitely. It's always good to move for me as well. I mean, I was a pilot, of course. Maybe, I don't know, on an unconscious level, I choose that job because I'm always on the move. I feel good with it to be on the move. That's, I don't know, maybe I'm a sort of nomad blood in me, but nowadays, especially, is definitely true because we are electromagnetic organisms. We are on a cellular level and on another level, energetic level, we communicate internally and externally, internally and externally, electromagnetically. So this is interfered. This is drastically interfered. That is by itself is unhealthy.
if you cannot communicate healthy internally and externally, then you get problems. You get health problems by itself. Despite the fact that the cellular level doesn't recognize these frequencies as being natural, that's why it goes in a lockdown position. The cells go in lockdown because that's a protection mechanism. Because of that, the nutrients cannot come in and the toxins cannot go out. You cannot detoxify, so you get toxic buildup. That's why it's toxic, because the toxins cannot go out of the cells, and then the cell dies. So there is huge interference, as well as with each other, but as well as with the planet Earth. Planet Earth and humanity shares the same electromagnetic concept. That's in the spectrum, the frequency spectrum. We have the same elements. The fire, the air, earth, the water. These are the same elements as Earth is using. So we are strongly connected to Earth. It's the Schumann resonance, for this 7.83. That's a natural frequency. And there are tons of scientific reports which clearly show that if you're disconnected from these frequencies, you get health problems, especially psychic health problems. You get depressed. You get all kinds of energy problems.
Right.
You see all the symptoms you see nowadays in society, which exactly are a copy of what's in these scientific reports. And there are tons of scientific reports. It's ridiculous to say that this is maybe not. If you do a little research on it, then you see what disastrous effect this grid has on us. And it's true what you say in this mast, this grid of antennas, masts are now being impositioned and still being expanded, while there's the technology to make phone calls via the internet, to do actually everything via the internet is already long there. So we don't need all these antennas actually anymore. And yet they are expanding it and making them bigger and ask questions why it is. And society is sort of stuck also in this belief that it is normal to have health problems.
That's right.
That's natural. It's like we have to go to this sickness, and then we have the flu, and then we go to this. It's normal. The winter approaches, we get this flu, blah blah blah, and we have fully accepted that it's normal to be depressed, or it's normal to have ADHD. Well, it's completely not normal, and accidentally, it's quite, it's parallel. All these health problems, the new health sickness like ADHD, ADD, they run parallel with the implementation of EMF radiation and wireless technology. So now we're talking only about but that's only one part of this multi-dimensional directional toxic assaults we are experiencing.
Yes.
But again, the good thing is that in this radiation, which causes health problems, can cause health problems, we communicate electromagnetically with each other, and internally, we have to go into this area, explore this area, to be aware of this communication on a cellular level in order to use it to communicate with it. And then you can bring in a signal internally on a cellular level that you're completely okay. There's no reason to you can communicate on cellular. And then the external radiation has much less influence on your being, on the physical and on the psychological level. The symptoms might rise, but if you're aware of what it is, and you give this inner voice, this felt sense mechanism, you use it to speak and to give the message. I'm under attack. This is an assault from outside, because I speak of an attack. I'm not anymore like this is a coincidence and we have to do that. No, if you bring in the element of these things being an attack, it gives more protection. It awakens all kinds of biochemical processes in the system, which immediately give a momentum outside as a shield, as protection. So that's not like from an aggression or a fight. No, you wake up something in yourself, a protection mechanism with awareness, which immediately is able to protect. So in that sense, it's very a positive thing actually that these things now are from everywhere. This attack, because we have to address our whole awareness, parts of our awareness and consciousness. Well, we speak a lot about this, which we didn't have to address before when everything was okay and we were in this rat race. We had the mortgage and my family and my nice job. But now we have to address other areas, and that's possible. That's the beauty of it. So
it's very practical, isn't it? Sorry, it's very practical, isn't it? It's people think that raising your vibration is some kind of new age woo-woo thing, and we're going to ascend and we're just going to disappear like the rapture or something. No, that's not what it's about. It's literally, I mean, there's been a lot of alternative science research on how your vibration and what you're attuned to, like you're explaining, actually can repair your DNA. I mean, these are all technologies available to us, given to us by universe within our very systems. I mean, all we need to do is give it the right basic fuel and grow in awareness and, avoid foolish circumstances that we don't need to be in for extra toxification. But we're all in this war. But like you said, it works in our favor if we take the challenge and see what's going on. We actually grow through this. But unfortunately, people in the system, they're looking for comfort, ease, just to go to sleep. They don't see the challenge and the inspiration you can get by taking a challenge and growing and learning about all these things. I mean, speaking of the electromagnetic field, I mean, even now as you know, the chemtrail program is really screwing that up. But also the Earth's magnetic field seems to be weakening. Meanwhile, the poles are shifting. So we're in a time of mega transformation in so many ways. Yet it doesn't need to make us feel disoriented. The point is that we need to get this straightened out ourselves personally and learn about these technologies, and get in tune with them and become aware of them. So, I mean, the information you're sharing is so enlightening and empowering. But as you know, we like to talk about it on the next level as well, the metaphysical level, and the power of intention and the power of these. These are the real tools to develop, and that's why I love to talk with you about it, because we can go all kinds of exciting places. How did you start getting? Okay, you became conscious of your health challenges, and through that you were awakening your consciousness. I know you went to meditation retreats. You tried a lot of things, and you were opening up like the proverbial lotus flower, and then you started to, I don't know at what point. Yeah, I know you're really into Carlos Castaneda and those teachings, and a lot of teachings, Krishnamurti, and we share a lot of Gurdjieff, a lot of when you get into mysticism and those things, you run into pretty much a lot of the same people. But how did that progression happen with you when you moved towards this greater awareness? I mean, you've always had the health challenges, and you do to this day, but was it like a continuum for you, like a regular incline, or were there things that sort of were special that kind of woke you up and took you to the next level?
Smooth, right?
Yeah. It's so easy. You just glide.
Yeah. No, it's just smooth ride. Yeah. So, when I was at school, because it's interesting to talk about the awakening. When was your wake? When did you wake up? These folks are questions. But if I look back, more and more things fall into place. It's still. Well, you just mentioned it. It's an ongoing process. But when I was the real problem started when I went to school, and then I felt there really. I started to develop all kinds of very depression. I was started to develop severe fear. I had it already before school, but in school it became really problematic. So I had fear what do you call it? Disorders. And also anger, frustration, and I had big problems with the school system. Well, now I would be in medication probably if it was a child. Back then, it was also a problem because I couldn't handle authority. I had big problems with authority. I thought this is not okay. I thought I had a deep sense of something it's not okay. I don't feel safe. I was not aware, but I had this feeling like most of us did. So you could say that we all were awake already when we were a child, especially as a child. We were awake, but we were morphed into this left brain prisons with your problems, which are your problems. And that's you have to go through it. So I was looking into trauma, all these things, but and then the fear disorder, that was really a big thing for me. Fear is always a big element in my life. It has always been like that. It still is, but now it's my best friend. In a way, it's different because I approach it different. It's, I wouldn't be here without this fear elements. I mean, it's completely different. I can look at it and I can see it. I respect it. I'm being humble for it. Back then, it was, of course, a big problem because I talk much about it, and I had to go through things. And then at a certain point, I made a decision with two other good friends of mine. Because they were on medication. That was they had antidepressants kind of medication. I was so at a point that I was really at a really low point in this. I didn't know what to do anymore, and I tried a lot of things. Therapy work, all kinds of breathing techniques. I went to Thailand, did retreats, and for this fear elements. And then I was at the point, okay, I'm gonna try to do these antidepressants. And before I started with it, I got a book from my dear friend Rudy, and he gave me a book, The Lessons of Don Juan, The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda. And I took it. I went to Thailand, and this book completely gave me an inner connection, a reconnection actually with my spirit, with who I am, and the contact with the native part, which is I feel very connected with, and also with the abstract and which is of course our nature is endless and abstract, and he could write this in his books, and these were the medicine I was looking for in a way. So that was a big help on the path, and so that was how Castaneda came on my path actually, and it stayed like that because after that, because I was continuing of course in this cycle of happiness, and then the downers and up and down, the cycle, the samsara, I was still in it. So, but each time I made the decision to go somewhere, follow my heart, just give myself, do anything like, but heal me, then there was always a sign of, or a quote, or of Castaneda was there, so it's very weird. We all have this connection with these amazing gifts of Castaneda to humanity, actually. I think it's...
I have the same thing in my life with Don Quixote. He'll show up, I hear a song, image, name of a restaurant, or somebody sends me something, and it repeats. Since I read the book when I was about 19, changed my life. I wasn't sure what it was, except that the impossible dream, and it was in my heart since I was a kid. But first time it was expressed in such a unique way. But just like Castaneda for you, this guy shows up at the most crazy times, and I see it. It's like seeing 11:11 or something. It's just like, but much more powerful. But very interesting.
But it's interesting to see how this works, because if you're really at a point, that's why it's good to be rock bottom at some point,
Yes.
sometimes in your life, because a lot of people like yourself, they can really to another sort of form of liberation when they lost everything in a way. They had to just let go of everything because there was nothing to hold on anymore, and fed up with it. And then flowering started, or the reconnection, or the awakening, or whatever you want to call it. It's a very important moment in lives. Yes. But if you and then if you look for that with your heart, if you look for healing with your heart, then it gets always in a sort of manifestation in another way. It's not like we have problems or symptoms, we want to take a pill and then we want to get rid of the symptoms. That's how our initial healing knowledge is. That's how it's presented to us. But now, Castaneda is a very important element for me. And when I was younger, I started to have visions about a native life, in North American native life. And these visions were very lucid and clear, actually. And but they became problematic for me in a way, because I saw this really as a home. I could really be there, but the suffering of the native in history, of course, that became a problem for me. So these visions were sort of bothering me, in the sense that I thought, why should I be remembering this, or why do I see this? Because it's not here anymore. Look what we have now for society. And this was before the books, before I read the books of Castaneda. So these books of Castaneda gave me actually, it made me connection in a good way, that I remember, or I saw this, because what I now see today, what I see, how I see it, is a reconnection with this sort of tribal spirit on another level in humanity. And I think the tribes, still the tribes, but the tribes in history who suffered, who went through this deep suffering, went through it in order to create this. It's another level of tribe. It's a human. It's new tribes, humanity. It's not only tribes in North America anymore. It's not a new tribe, because it's still of course, local. But I could more understand the suffering and approach the suffering in a different way. I see now more that after each form of suffering, there is a rebirth of something new, of something beautiful. We have to go through this if we want to transcend all the elements of life. We also have to go through these difficult things in order to overcome it. So
yes,
I could
and be willing to see the dark side. People think, oh, it's evil, don't touch it. No, wait a minute, that's part of the picture here. Like you said, that's really profound for someone to say fear is my best friend. That takes a real transcendent understanding, and very deep. It's very deep, but this is the direction of true understanding. We have to go through the dark side of the dark night of the soul. We have to go through these serious detachments, and the only reason they're serious is because we're so attached to them. But like you said, and you've taught me so much about this, it goes right back to your childhood and your inner child, and how it was born pretty much great. It was awake, it was alive, but it never got the attention or the acknowledgement or recognition that it should have as the being that it was. And so the abuse syndrome cycle just kicks in from the start. And as you know, the abused becomes the abuser, and everybody perpetuates it. Our parents didn't know what they were doing. And I want to talk more about that whole codependency cycle. But it's interesting what you're saying is, again, saying, and I agree completely, this crash that's going down now with Western society, these crumbling economies, people losing everything. It's in their favor if they could only see it. It is universe trying to help us. It is part of the great cycle of life. And when people just cruise on and everything's great, they never really learn anything, and they're not progressing spiritually. And that's, it's like people's idea of heaven is to go off and strum a harp on a cloud. Sounds frickin' boring to me. But, these are all misplaced concepts from social engineering and genetic baggage and things like that. But to learn to see suffering as your best friend, and these sort of detachment, they can be very shocking. They can really rock your world, and you don't know which way is up or down. And like I said, I've been through at least 5, and I'd say 6 now, major changes in my life that I could identify, and they were tough, man. I didn't know if I was going to make it through. That's just the 5 majors. Never mind all the, people say, oh, I lost my girlfriend, or, my mom died, or something like that. But when when it requires a real death to self, that's when it starts to cook. That's when things are really kicking in, and you come through that, and each time when you look back, you're so thankful. I can honestly say the best things that happened in my life that brought me to this wonderful stage of growth and the sense of presence in my life and all these wonderful things, they were the worst possible things at the time. And my reaction was terrible. I fought them. I became bitter. I became angry. I didn't understand them. I thought it was just right, wrong. And I was just looking at it in just this flat paradigm. And now you look back and you go, oh boy, did I miss it. But the next time around, when we start getting the point, no, we've talked about this, then it becomes easier. You go, wait a minute, this looks bad, but I know it's good, as so-called good and bad. And we start to transcend. And something else you taught me really profound recently was that people are passing through these kinds of tests a lot faster than they used to, especially awake people. I found that so extremely empowering, Willem. It empowering. It put context in what I was going through, a recent thing, and I was able to actually keep writing, and it was just, keeping it pumping through me, getting the most out of it, and letting the old stuff, not getting hung up on old patterns, but watch them just pass. And I've got to say it, and it wasn't easy. It was a very difficult time, but bring it on if that's what it takes. And I've gone so far as to say, and like I told you, in Mexico, I was when I spoke, my mate just pops out, but people are going to meet some serious challenges, and it's going to surprise them what they are. It's going to come from left field, seemingly, but it's going to be good. But on the really practical level, in America, they're about to lose it all. England, Europe, by design, by these manipulators, but also universe. It's these things are allowed to happen. They're in a very profound way an extension of what's in our hearts, and that's the place we need to start looking. No.
Well said. Beautiful said. Especially that's what's in our hearts. That's the essential area where we should shift to, because we were our center of awareness was in the left brain. We were imprisoned in the left brain. In the 5 senses illusion, it's a reality, but it's a part of the reality. It's part of the whole. But indeed, like Krishnamurti says, it's not a matter of health where you're adjusted to a profound sick society, and because of that, everything has to go. And everything has to go, what is attached to it? But that's where we don't want to go fully, because we want to get rid of the whole system, and we want to have another world. We actually want to have another system. We don't want a better world. We want a better system in order to be able to more connect with the world. The world is beautiful. The world is sick,
right?
But she's fine. She's beautiful. It's not about it's not about plastic, huh?
Yeah,
which is good. But but that's this one step too far. Sometimes people then they have to really they want to let go. They say everything has to go, but they don't want to let everything go. It's like there's still this attachment, and we all have this, and it can come up. It's okay. It's all part of the old programming, the old consciousness. The fragmented me is still there. I have it also. But if you're aware of it, only be aware of it and not react to it by identifying with it and then react from it, to feed it more, then there are these huge opportunities to make transformations in such a fast way that's completely different than 30 years ago. I saw now, yesterday I talked with someone, he was very much into a group, very enthusiastic about the group, and he had really difficulties with it because he pinned some hope also in this group, what it was doing, and but if he let it go, he said, well, let it go. Now, then you just step back and let it go. And if you do that, then you make a healing, you make a healing process in yourself where you maybe should, 30 years ago, maybe you had to go a year long to a therapist for. You can just, if you put your intention in it, your heart, okay, I let this go. I just let it go. With me and all, put more in it, and it's just detoxifying. These things, everything goes so fast and quick, but we have to take the responsibility and the willingness to let it all go. And it's not, I mean, it's a result of the five senses reality. If you say, I'm so attached to my son or my daughter, I cannot let her go. It doesn't mean that you have to let her go and just never see her again, but you have to let her go from the brain, from the me, the my child, because this is the disease. And if we shift to the heart, and then we connect with other children as being our children and our brothers and sisters, and then you can let go, and then you see the other for what it is, and there's more connection actually. There's more healthy connection. It's not like this fear-based connection out of the left brain, out of the me. So this is an amazing time to really make a huge step to healing and reconnect with who we are. Only that's where we're going. We're going to see more of the weird stuff because you see the dark elements or the power structure or what's behind it. It's desperate. It's in fear. It's in fear. It sees what is happening because they become more and more powerless, and the only thing they can do is to bring in more of the same stuff. That's the only thing they can do.
That's right.
You see a dying thing, really. It's de-energized. Every move they make is more de-energized because we're becoming more energized. We're losing fear. They cannot feed because they feed on this fear, on this fragmented, ridiculous controlling. So and another thing is, very important thing is that we try to we try to manifest with our brain. So we think that intention comes, that's how we're being conditioned. You have to work in the brain. And we think we want to manifest things from the brain, but the heart is the electromagnetic field from the heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain waves. There's more neurons. It's a much powerful center of intelligence. So if you put intention from the heart instead of the brain, if you put intention from the brain, you want to manifest this and that.
Yeah.
And you put it this intention from the me actually, which is located in the brain, identification from the me. But if you put the intention from the heart, then because the heart doesn't speak, the heart feels. So the manifestation from the heart comes on another level. It comes on another reality, not in this five senses reality. It comes from another vibrational level.
Yeah, a knowing, not even more than feeling even. Yeah. Yeah. So the dying of the me, it's literally the dying of the me, the ego, and the ego can only die in this, the ego can dissolve the suffering, the fire of the suffering, then the ego dissolves, and that's a very painful thing. If you're in it, and it's very difficult to keep the space in it because you have this identification with the me, and it's the false self which is fighting to, and it's like this is getting out. But if you're in it, it's difficult to see. But afterwards, you see that's the best thing happen because you're reborn. Actually, because the false self is dying. Something of you is dying. Yes. Yeah. The ultimate analogy is, the purification of gold. But, people say, oh, yeah, of course, it's got to burn off the dross and then you get the pure gold. Well, when you are this thing getting distilled and burning until this black stuff burns off, it has to burn off. You got to stay on the cooker as long as it takes and not get off it. You got to let yourself do it. Some people kill themselves. Some people give up or go get drunk the rest of their life or blame it on everybody else and spend their life in bitterness and anger. But that's what it is. It is a purification process. It's not some super spiritual guru thing. It is very personal. And the people, I guess for someone who's sincerely going through all this stuff, they learn to just take it. We don't all take it very well. We all have our issues, but we get better at accepting situations like that. And I guess that's why a lot of us too move out of the cities, out of the busyness, find something in the quiet like you have on your little farm and me here in Uruguay. You get time, like you were telling me this morning. It's like time alone is sacred time. We need to fill our lives with sacredness, even if it means lighting a candle and just to remind us, we're here for the sacred. It's not a religious thing. It is a reminder of deeper consciousness and awareness where things make sense, where, the mind keeps its back seat, the heart takes the front seat. But to fill our lives with these sorts of things, beautiful friendships, detoxing from bad relationships or whatever else, because there's always going to be bullshit. But that really struck me today when you were saying that. It's such a good reminder to see that the sacred element. I remember I was talking to somebody, I think it was John Lash, and we were talking about anger and how anger has its place. There's a real anger. And I said, yeah, I write about that a lot. It's called, righteous anger is good. And he corrected me. He said, no, it's sacred anger. Righteous goes into this Christian right, wrong paradigm and all this stuff. And I went, I get it, So I used that word now. It was a really good point. But it's these, how the dark side is sacred too. It's not what we think it is. Like we have to be willing to get our concepts and our paradigms continually, because they keep forming like the ego. They keep coming up with a new paradigm. Well, that's got to go. It's really what we're looking for is a paradigm-free existence, which is what we are essentially. And, keep getting these things dissolved or letting them be dissolved or whatever the process is. But I love what you said about the sacred nature. And I know you very much live that. You're a real example of it. And I appreciate that. And I'm learning.
I'm learning too. I do something, and every day I do a ritual, a sort of small ritual, and I put my humbleness in it because I know nothing about this world. I mean, it's always there. It's there. We're disconnected to it. It's like home. This physical, impermanent manifestation of consciousness is impermanent, but that other part in us, which is also present now, that's always there, but we're being disconnected for it. And because it's unknown, there's this humbleness towards it, but it gives a lot. I think it greatens our awareness if we put effort in it with our heart, of course, to make contact with this unknown, forgotten area in us. It's a must do actually, I think, today, because we have the challenges we face. We have to address these areas, because this is an area which is not. It's of course it is manipulated and it's slightly used and it's by darker elements, but I think the answers are to help us. The help was always there, but now we're switching to the heart consciousness, the contact with it is much more easier to do. And if you put intention in it, there is a communication with it without expecting anything, because we need to in order to let go, we have to just put intention into a field of without expecting anything back from it. Because that's the problem with the attachment to the outcome of what we do. That's the me. That's the me in it.
That's the new age process.
What you see with a lot of tribes, what's so interesting of them, they don't speak as much. They don't. We continuously are talking, and this is a movement from the brain and speaking often. If you speak from the heart, you feel you're in flow. It's different. It gets its information from a different area, but we speak a lot from our brains, from the me. The me is in there, but the tribes, they don't speak. If they speak, they have a ceremony, because then everybody speaks. Not at the same time, of course, but the one who use the tobacco, and they give the tobacco to the other tribe members, and then they speak and listen, but they include the spirit world. By not speaking to everybody at the same time, because it's a waste of energy. We're spending a lot of time on talking. That's why being alone is good to consider it as sacred, because there's no the words are de-energizing often. Often it's good to speak, to have information exchange, but we need to go more in exchange on a heart level, and that's not with words. That's with intention. It's with feeling. It's and it's very subtle. So if we speak, this changes the whole vibrational environment. If you're speaking and then you get ego in it and you get things, it makes it different. But the tribes that put something in, also with noble speech, and then it moves, and they don't expect anything back. They put things out of there in the spirit world, which is connected with them. Really connect, and then
and maybe something happens or manifests, but that's not the requirement. Whereas people, the new age thing, this The Secret and all that, intention, and you're going to get a new Chevrolet or something, or intention. What I want to be, I am intending success, and I'm intending to be the most important alternative person in the world. All for good intentions. But that's where people don't get it. This attachment to the outcome. Yeah. Attachment to the outcome is one of the most profound concepts, because it's obviously manifest when I try to explain it to my kids. Somebody, you decide to go to college because you want to be a this, and you're envisioning the house and the beautiful wife or husband, and comfort and a garage full of tools, and farm and play basketball on the weekends or watch football. The attention is being handed to humanity without their knowing it, and they are co-intending, similar to codepending. They're co-intending this program, and it's just it's being swept down the river pretty sadly. But another thing that I was thinking about, you talk about ritual, and what people normally what comes to mind for most people is some kind of some kind of a religious hocus pocus. Now there's a time for ritual, that a group ritual, and certain things that do work with the spirit world and with those kind of things. But ritual is part of our daily lives. I mean, we all go to the bathroom. We all think on the toilet. We all do dishes, and we're also stopping to think while we're doing dishes. We make our bed. We sweep the house. We walk the dog. These are things we do every day. Well, that's kind of a ritual, or I'm going to sit down now and, I'm going to do this, but our lives are very ritualistic, but without meaning, without this sacred aspect that you so profoundly explained. Then it loses its depth, and we're not getting, because each day is sacred. There's no question. I mean, every morning I wake up, I go, wow, here's another chance. It's they look kind of the same, and time is clearly flying a lot faster now in some way. But, each opportunity is sacred. I was just talking with the producer before we got a hold of you, He just works continually. I work continually. You're constantly on the go. But you have a very paced life, and a really good example to me. But I sense there is an urgency right now to the world is hitting a precipice. This is a very serious time in history. The awakening is it's a broad term, maybe getting overused, but it's very real. But at the same time, there are physical constraints like being in a body. There are time constraints. There's how much time will we have to keep getting out what we can, and what kind of empowering message we can via the internet. We don't know. I don't operate under the fear gun. I just do it because I'm compelled. I can't stop. If I love, I wouldn't do anything different. I obviously don't do it for the money, because if there was any money in it, all the powers that be would be doing it. Everybody else would be doing it. Hey, but this compulsion, I don't know, it sort of goes with the ritual idea, just that we do things on a regular basis that work and help us produce or relax. But most of all, our intention should be to connect and not lose contact, but grow in depth of understanding of this enormously wonderful opportunity called, call it universe or spirit. And I love what you learn and have been talking about native peoples, because they have so much to teach us. And we've lost that, like you and I were talking about this morning. We have no contact with our ancestors, whereas for them, they can just about visualize them around the dining table or at the fire. And what you were saying, one more point, what you were saying when how they communicate and they don't waste words. Native languages also have very guttural sounds. It's got a sound, whereas English is so chop, chop, chop and shallow. And also they use images like animals and plants and the earth and mother in all their speech. Because how soon will he get here? He's slow as an ox. I don't know, or something. But once I heard a story about these Native Americans sitting around a fire, and one guy was speaking, and the elder said, and it was a little bit in the dark, the other side of the fire at nighttime, and he said, the other guy was speaking. He said, "Come closer so I can see what you're saying." Because his gestures and his face, he wasn't getting the full message. He was just getting words from in the darkness. I want to see what you're saying. Really cool, no? I love that.
It's a beautiful, very powerful, lesson or mirror these indigenous tribes hold up to us, and what's happening now in the world with all these tribal elements and spirits are being killed or being exterminated in Palestine and Yemen nowadays, and all this. This is part of the efforts to disconnect us from this spirit even more, and of the connection to Mother Earth. If you cannot come to another conclusion that this is really a war on humanity and Mother Earth. Everything is unnatural what happens, and it doesn't resonate in any form with the other humans, what's happening now. So, but I think to connect with this spirit, that's a very powerful and important thing to do in order to survive, literally. But for a lot of people, they say, it's too far away, what can I do to help? No, we can help ourselves by remembering our tribal character, our tribal spirit. We all have in ourselves. Humanity is a tribe, and we're not fragmented. We need each other. This is all the same concept as same as in the tribe. We are conditioned in a sick system, which is run by psychopaths and evil, sick people. It's not to blame the system, and that they are responsible for my emotions and what I feel. That's not the case, but it's factual to be aware of it, and because of that, it's obligatoire. It's obligation It's really an obligation and responsibility to take this responsibility. If you say it's too far away for me to do help Palestinians or whatever, or in the Serbs, or then if that's the case, I think that then you can take the responsibility to do it yourself, to wake up the tribal spirit in yourself for them, not for you. If the me is not there anymore, but humanity is there, it's not for me, it's for humanity. It's for my brothers and sisters who are suffering. I mean, if you can come to that realization, and then the fear dissolves. Because if you really feel that this is not about me, it's not about me, this is about humanity, it's about our brothers and sisters, our children. It's not, I'm not separated from it. That's how we've been conditioned. So, and this is what people now are awakening from. And it's difficult to immediately apply it, but if you put your intention there, to really be willing to detach and to let go everything you love and you care of, let go of it. That doesn't mean that you have to throw it away. No, but you have to let go out of the perception of the me, the connection of the me. And then you feel connected with all the other things, and then you will act, because if your own child is being molested or killed, you immediately act. But if a child is being molested at the end of the street, you do nothing because you're fragmented from it. So that's how you can, I think, then, not use, but away. If you're frustrated with what's happening in the world, okay, then live for them, not for you, the me, but act for them. You can act by go to your neighbor, or go locally, or go to elderly homes. I don't know how this is in the United States, but in Holland you can just be a volunteer. They're screaming for volunteers in elderly homes, and that's the most powerful, one of the most powerful ways to detach from the me and to let go of the me and to of the ego, is to go there and work there. Go do work, volunteer work. It's amazing what you will experience, the connection with the heart and the awareness of your own story, which is completely, I mean, it's irrelevant if you go there, and it's not so difficult. It's maybe every 500 meters you have an elderly home in Holland, and they know people who work there, people dying alone because nobody's there in a way. And the people who work there are angels. They earn nothing, get less and less and less, so they don't have the time to connect. But you can go as a volunteer. They're very open with things like that, or with homeless people the same. That's a very powerful way of letting go of your fears, identification with your story and your attachment to your family and your me and your possessions, is go to homeless, speak with them, connect with them. And these connections are so powerful and so strong. And in this time, I don't know exactly, of course, how this works. There's another energy which is helping us. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's Gaia. Probably is. Something happens which is helping us. If you channel in, if you step into this, by these little acts, they become huge. And because there's no expectation, you do something which is very big, and you put this momentum. You create momentum, and the me dissolves, and that's where we have to go to become more powerful, because we becoming powerful. It's good to mention it as well. It's not, yes. It is happening, and we are doing a great job, but we can do more. But we don't do more because we're afraid still, and we're connected, and that's okay. But we can put little things, we can make little things big. That's sacred. If you speak with the homeless human being, give him money, especially when you don't have the money. That's sacred. It's an enormous, powerful act which has results for the good, for the better, without any expectation. It's a good lesson, individually, collectively. So because we are conditioned with changing the world, we see these movies of one guy is changing, and he's the one, and he's fighting the ridiculous stories in 2 hours, and he solves the whole problem with a beautiful lady, and that's the end. But, so we are conditioned with ridiculous ideas. That's only big things, big operations, and big fights. Then you're a hero. No, it's these small acts from the heart, which are enormous big. But we don't see it because we try to see the result, happy end or whatever.
Right. We're afraid to get started. People are afraid to take the first step. But that again, then fear's got you by the short and curlies. I mean, we have to be willing. The stories that you share from your time working in homes where people were dying and what you learned and what it did to you are just some of the most precious life lessons. I'm sharing them vicariously with you, but it's just beautiful. I made a note about the power of compassion. It dissolves fear. It dissolves evil. I mean, and like this Watiko phenomenon you and I have been discussing by the research of Paul Levy, it only has power when we are in a lower level understanding or we're not willing to face things. And I mean, it's a kind of a pretty deep concept, but it's not. But the key is when we have compassion, it dissolves this black-white, right and wrong paradigm, and it loses its power over us. Things only have power when we have the wrong perception or we have kind of wrong reactions. But it's very much it goes along exactly to what you're saying. It's actually for people who are more metaphysically inclined, acts of compassion. And Buddha talked about this, and so many great teachers. Acts of compassion, sharing, giving when you don't have it to give. I mean, I still send money to people. I hardly make enough to get by, but I can't stop. If someone needs help, it may not be a big amount, but it's something that because it's needed and it matters, and that's living. That's part of breathing. That should be. I know I could probably do a lot more, but at least I respond to the things that I notice, and but it's part of living and breathing. But compassion has this dissolving effect on all these other traps and all the bullshit and trying to figure it out. Like to say, love is the answer. That's essentially what that means. And, they say God is love. Well, yeah, ultimately, it's a dissolving force. It breaks boundaries, breaks attachments. It manifests in a lot of crazy ways because sometimes it has to rip things from us because it's the best thing that can be done. It was killing us and we didn't realize it. But I always think about these people who commit suicide too, or tempted with suicide. There's that classic phrase, don't throw your life away, give it away. Like you said, give it to somebody. Okay, end your life right now. And since you've got a good, able body, go work at these elderly homes. Go just give it away. And when people find out, when they step out of themselves, life begins. That's the beginning of life. And that's why people with, life after death experiences or, near-death experiences or, serious accidents, but they live through it. It's a new birth on life and everything changes. It doesn't have to be that drastic, but there will be suffering for all of us. But that's good. Ultimately, that's good if we just need to keep on through it. And like I've been saying recently, that I think determination is going to be one of the more important qualities to have to make it through the tests that are coming, because it's going to get more complex. There's going to be a lot of deception. There already is this contention in the alternative community. The media and everything gets weirder and weirder. The vibrations, the electromagnetic warfare, all this, it's not going to be an easy test. But that we're here for a purpose. And therefore, we have the answer at our fingertips. So anyway, I love sharing these concepts with you because it's sort of like you have to chew on these things. You sort of get a feel for it. And, I'll say something and you'll say something, and, then we'll stumble across a certain video or somebody sends us something, and that's how it happens. It's a wonderful process.
Yes, and the detachment of the fear for death, fear for dying. That's a core manipulation and manipulation of society. The whole concept of death is completely ignored at school or whatever. What is it? What is it actually? In movies, you get ridiculous images of death. But as when I worked in the elderly homes, this was terminal care. So I studied terminal care because I was in and out intensive care. So I was actually dying myself at that moment. So
Wow.
my fear of this, was very interesting actually. And so then I decided, well, let's work in this. Let's study terminal care. And then I worked terminal care homes, elderly homes. So every week people were dying there, and where you had a beautiful contact with these people. But if you saw the way they died, that's actually the way they lived. Because some people go to suffering, and then the fear is there. And but if they're completely detached, there is nothing. It's a beautiful transition. Actually, it's only the attachment which makes the process difficult. And that's where we now in the middle of actually of this detachment. It's dying, but it's not really dying. It's dying of the false me, the cocoon, the false ego, which is dying, which is a good thing. So if people say, "I'm not afraid for death," well, that's nicely said. But if it's in your face, it's ridiculous to say, "I'm not afraid for death." But humble, I'm not afraid for for death, but I'm very humble to it, and I respect it. It's forced me to go into areas to learn more about it, to work with it, and now it's my friend in a way, because if I die, I live every moment as if it's the last moment or day. It's really true because of that. Because
That's so true.
If I'm around, when I see people, I always think this can be the last time, but that's not it. But I enjoy much more of it. I enjoy life fully because it might be the last moment that I'm here.
Yeah.
But I think the more the more you're aware, you are aware when you die that is also a part of us, because there is no death, but the transition.
Right.
The more you're aware of it. You're aware of it when this happens. You're going into this awareness, of course, as well. But I live in an area here that's near the Pyrenees, and in the medieval you had the Cathars here, and the Cathars these were sort of community society, a tribe, if you want to call it like that. They were dissociated from the church, and because they had different views on spirituality. But there was another element in their existence here, because they had knowledge over the detachment of the physical body. So they could overcome pain. They had a different approach of pain. They didn't react on it. They had the knowledge of this. So they were slaughtered and killed all because they had knowledge about certain things, maybe that were not supposed to come out. But that's very interesting, because they approach pain, and like a lot of tribes or communities, they approach pain completely different as we do, because we see it from the fragmented me, and how we've been conditioned by hospitals. They are pain managers. They don't approach pain as a portal, as an opportunity to transcend things, to achieve more detachments. Actually, it's an opportunity to observe what's happening in the system. Actually, it's sensations, but we approach it from the rigid me. Of course, we don't want it, but in pain and suffering is tremendous opportunities, and self-reflection is possible if you want to approach it like that. Just observe it instead of react on it. But that's interesting that the Cathars were slaughtered because of their knowledge of things as well.
I heard that they had ties to the Gnostic teachings.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. I mean, as you know, anytime somebody doesn't fit in, they just slaughter them and try to annihilate them. And we're in pretty much a hostile planet, although essentially Gaia Sophia is not hostile. We're in a very strong vibration of love, but it looks like external externally inspired enemies of humanity have wanted to make this their domain, and now it's ours to arise and take on the mantle of the true cosmic or conscious warrior that we need to be. And that means anybody and everybody who hears the call, and you've got to stop looking at the little me and the little I can't do it and who am I baloney. That's all left brain, 5 cents social engineered programming. We have to be willing to step forward. And like you said, you don't have to do it if you don't have to do it for yourself. In fact, don't do it for everybody else. Do it for your kids, your grandkids. Do it. Find something that stirs your heart. And when you tap into that, all of a sudden the children of Gaza are yours. The people of Serbia become yours. The people of Yemen, the people of Iraq. These are ancient cultures that they're decimating because of their connection to the earth, ancestry. That's why they're decimating the European cultures, because there's connectivity in that. It's not the system of the culture needs to be preserved. There's the reverence and the understanding and the connectivity to earth and our whole family here. That's what they don't like, and that's why they're, as you know, the migration agenda. And there's so many vectors coming at us right now. Listen, I want to take a quick break. There's a song that I was sent today by Mike Williams, and he recorded. I'd like everybody to hear, and I wanted to play that at this point, Willem. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back, and I want to go even further into. I want you to talk about codependency, if you could, how that ties into what we've been talking about, because that's a term that people hear a lot, but they hear it in a certain context. They don't. It's not that easy to understand, although, once you become a little more familiar with it and you see it in your own life, it becomes more clear. Okay, so we're here for our final segment of my inspiring interview with Willem Felderhof. By the way, Willem, you've got a website, juanmatus.com, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. juanmatus.com and bodyonenes.nl. That's the healing work I do.
Bodyonenes.nl.
Actually.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can learn. And also, you've been staging conferences since about a year. Now, I know after the first one you said you'd never do it again, but now you are. But do you want to explain about the Open Mind conferences and the format, and maybe you could announce the coming one and see if people would like to come? It's going to be quite inspiring.
Yeah, sure. I organized first Open Mind conference. That's a year ago. I think it's a year ago. Yeah, in 1 year, what all happened in 1 year? Amazing, actually. Yeah. So the third one is coming in May, the 21st and 22nd of May this year in Aalsmeer, Amsterdam, actually. But the first one...
Is there a website for that? Website they can go to get the details?
That's openmindconference.nl.
Okay.
And the first one was actually my personal drive to do it was the contact I have with people who were involved as investigative journalists in the war on Yugoslavia. Because that war was really, for me, very much an eye-opener. That the reality we are presented with is completely different than what we see on the television and what's real. So I did in-depth research on the history of this war in Yugoslavia, which is very important war. I think all these wars, but this war served really as a blueprint. It has all the fingerprints on it, who is behind these wars and which elements in the wars which were after this war in Yugoslavia, besides the complete falsification of how it was presented to us. And I lived in Holland next to the International Criminal Court, which is also, it's a phony court. And so I was very much involved in this war because I was also flying into the war in Yugoslavia with Dutch troops in the beginning in the 90s. And then I saw that it was completely different, this war, than how we've been presented. Then I did research on the Serbian people, and I felt very connected with it. And some people were killed who I know who did research on it, especially on the history of Srebrenica. That's that's a personal thing. A very dear friend of mine, he wrote books about it, Alexander Dorin, about what really happened in Srebrenica. And Srebrenica is just a short to tell is that was in 95, where supposedly 8,000 Muslim men and boys were massacred by the Serbian army, which was completely false. Yeah. So and that was not true. And so I did history on the Serbian people, and they have the most horrific history in Europe as a people. They suffered most of all the peoples in Europe while fighting imperialism. So this became a very strong motivation for me just to expose these lies, especially Srebrenica, because it's so important for the history of Holland as well, because we were involved in supposedly we let it all happen. But so I thought I'm organizing a conference, and then I invite Alexander Dorin, who wrote a book, several books about what really happened to Srebrenica, but it was changing continuously, the format, because in Holland, if you do research on Srebrenica or on the royal family, then you get problems with intimidation and all these things. So finally it changed to a conference where other people came, like Ole Dammergaard and Ima Crane. And and then as things are happening in the world, there's more need for it. So I started to do more conferences, and because I wanted to do more of this actually, because it's much needed, and especially in Holland, but everywhere. But Holland is very much suppressed and controlled and sick in a way. But a lot of beautiful people wake up there as well, and are also doing amazing work. So I got in contact with Open Mind conference in Denmark with great people there who helped me, and now I'm doing more of this. But the next conference is going to be different than the first two. It's not only about people coming and giving presentations. Yeah, I'm very happy that you're one of the people who come to speak. But it's more of trying to create an interactive dynamic where we are having the same heart intention. There's no difference between any attendee. We're together and try to create a sort of energetic movement from the heart with awareness, because we created energetic momentum with the other conference as well, but we're not so busy with it, not aware of it, that we do a lot of work by doing this, by coming together. So I want to create more awareness of the power of the heart consciousness and of the intention, and work with that and see where it goes. So of course, people who come to speak about their special area of knowledge, I can do a little talk, but more on the emphasis, what are we going to do with information, or what can we do with information? Right. Anyone can speak and hook in and share information or come with ideas. So we will see where that goes this weekend. Maybe workshops, maybe we can come up with all kinds of things, and trust in the unknown, what's coming from it, instead of having a fixed expectation where it should go. Just trust on the heart intention. The intention, we can crystallize, of course, our intention, but then just put it out there and no attachment to how it should become, because we're still, of course, in a limited state of awareness, and we should experiment with it and act with it. So it will be interesting, and it will be some donation based again, so the people cannot complain that they got not enough for their money. So they're free to give.
That's beautiful. You know, what's interesting too is a lot of people come to these events. Like there's another one you'll be speaking at, and so will I, in England, second week of May, called Alternative View 7. If anybody in the UK is watching, please try to come. It's going to be very powerful once again. And we're together for 4 days in the same residence hotel, and it's just interaction, and everybody's, it's a beautiful, last year's event, it was the best thing I'd ever been to in my life. But a lot of people come looking for what can I do? But as we're talking about today, it's really ultimately the most important thing is who can I be? It has to do with us really becoming much more realized as to our true authentic selves and digging deeper into this connectivity that you've been talking about. That has to come first. The external can happen at the same time, depending what people want to get involved with. But really, people, when they ask, what can I do? It's a disguised way of saying, well, how do I become who I need to be? Or you know what I mean? And I think as time progresses, and you and I talk on these terms continually, this is really the challenge. And that's why, I named my book, You Are the Awakening. It's about the personal, realization before we can even begin to perceive, because otherwise, like you were saying, it's the head versus the heart. There's so much to learn, but really it's letting it out. It's a lot more organic, simple process than we're led to believe. But I think it'll be interesting, because I think that'll come up at your event, the way you've got it designed now, and the interaction, and I think the spiritual, it's happening more and more, the spiritual mixes with these sort of social action aspects and information action. It's getting more wound into it. It's very similar to modern physics, where now they have to address the element of consciousness, whereas before they kept it separate. But quantum physics proved there's something else going on, and it sounds just like these guys who talk about consciousness are talking about. So these crossovers are part of the awakening. It's the apocalypse, the revelation. So, I guess you call it the same thing in each of our lives. We're having a revelation as to who we really are. What really is going on. It really starts here.
Yeah, and these so-called evil people, or whatever is behind it, they are offering us this. I'm sometimes really thinking that I feel sad for them. I love them. I feel some love and compassion even with them. It's very weird in a way, but they present us the opportunity by their madness, insanity, and destruction.
Yes.
That force us to come to senses in reality. But
you said fear is your best friend today. Then you said death is your best friend. So why wouldn't these people be your best friend?
yeah, exactly.
It's true. It's like, it's part of it. It's part of the equation. You can't have one without the other. But also, as we're saying, and let's talk about this next time we talk, but because you have to come back or go forward, whichever. But how this is an extension of us, this whole very deep concept that until we resolve these issues, these are going to keep appearing. It has everything to do with our, like you said, intention and all these different aspects that they're allowed to exist in this matrix. There's an external aspect to it, but the really deep stuff, the psycho-spiritual stuff, it has a very interesting dynamic that would be fun to talk about more.
Yeah. Well, it's very, maybe last thing I can say, it's very helpful. People say, what can I do? But you can make it small. So if you and experiment with it, try to listen to the heart in a store. If you go to buy vegetables, try to listen to your heart. You get this feeling. It's very subtle. No, this is not organic, or this is not okay, or this feels good. Try things out. Because the information there, it's on a lot of vibration. It's very useful. But I try to use things and see what's coming, what I feel and how it works for me. Same with people. And it's very subtle, but And maybe sometimes it's wrong or it's not good, but that's okay. Sometimes not, but mostly it tells you what you need to feel, what you need to feel actually, and see it as reality. There's no set method for it. Everybody is unique, but try to work with the heart, make connection, and that's very big. That's very big. It's not small because we think this is not make just a talk. No, this is endless. The heart connection is what I say. It's 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. Well, how big can we make our brain? Our thoughts can be like immensely powerful, but it's 5,000 times less powerful magnetic field than the heart. So try to trust on what's happening and try to experiment with it. It's very important. So make small things big because they are big, especially if it comes from the heart. So these senses, those are senses, are new senses for us in a way. They are not new, but in order to use them, just experiment with it. Use it. Wherever you don't feel well, try to listen to it. If you don't feel well, step back and then act accordingly. So that's very sometimes helpful for people to make things small. But then they feel, because they're trapped in the left brain, they feel this walls of the left brain, this inconvenient feeling, then connect with someone, because that's the matrix is coming down, a rigid matrix, and the light is really going through these cracks. So if you put your heart connection in it, it's so powerful because of it. It's because it's not only rigid anymore around us. No, it's coming from everywhere. If you put your heart in it, just play with it. Play with it. Don't expect anything.
Yes. The more we turn it up, the more other people make the decision to respond. Like you said, start small. The more people do it, the louder it gets. This morphic field shift is just such an alive concept. But what was I going to say? Oh, I missed what I was going to say. But you were saying earlier about making everything sacred. It's the same spirit of small things are very big. And that's why you'll see like monks and ceremony and people who have really committed to as being as pure as possible. I'm not saying I endorse that, but then again, I've never done it. And I'm not, I'm who I am and going through my process. But this sacred acknowledgement, like you said, when you're buying vegetables, a lot of people are dowsing now with pendulums, or they have come up with other technologies. These are very helpful. They help you tune in. I'll use cards. I have a very inspiring a deck. I don't use the old classic cards, but a very inspiring deck. And but I handle it with very great care. And when I use them, it's with great intention, and I get amazing results. But I don't depend on that for direction. It's usually to sort of confirm something, or maybe just to sort of feel things out. I like to do it for other people. But all we can do when it comes to things like that, or so many aspects of life, is get in the way. We need to get out of the way. We are the interference when we're not in tune with or letting go. Then our bodies become run by it, and everything's magical. Synchronicity kicks in, and all those wonderful things. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this conversation, brother, and I enjoy every conversation we have. I can't wait to see you. So that's Juan Matus, MATUS .com, and what's the name of the wellness?
Body Oneness.
Body Oneness. .nl for .nl for Nederlands, and take a look at these conferences. If you're not going to be there, send good energy. There's going to be a lot of young people, a lot of interaction with people involved in movements there in Holland, and people we've met before and had contact with. Very exciting, very exciting. And as Willem said, we're looking for ways to interact more interactively, I guess, with people in a way
less words.
What's that?
Less words. With less words.
Yes, come closer so I can see what you're saying. Yes, that's right. Heart to heart. But I love you. You know that. Continue your wonderful work. Stay healthy. So many love you and appreciate what you do and who you are. it's going to be a very interesting year. It already is, but these upcoming events, and you know, you and I have been talking about other ideas, and we're going to head on down to Spain eventually, do some ceremony, have dear friends, and we've got friends looking into potential sort of a center for people to meet and mix together and on a regular basis. That is kind of interesting, but we're always looking and growing. And you take care of yourself. We'll talk more, but thank you for coming to the show. And the connection was a little choppy, but only the visual. The sound was really pretty good. So,
Okay.
But I'll try to explain to people that's how you really are when the words come at a different time than when you move. Anyway, ik hou van jou. That's I love you in Dutch. I speak a little. I lived there for a year and a half, but klein beetje. But goed zo. Okay, I love you. Take care. We'll talk more later. Thanks so much for being on. That's Willem Felderhof, folks, and we're so honored to have him on Now in Zen. I love this format because we can just talk as friends, and hopefully other people will get good information, be inspired, and answer some questions. And I just like a free format, and these are beautiful people that I want to introduce you to. There's so many, but this was our 9th show, and that's pretty exciting. They just keep happening. And so stay in touch, and if you have any questions or anything, please drop them with the CCN network there on their website, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Lots of love. Now in Zen, over and out.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.